So this is Dan of Vagabond Awake, and today we have Bobby on the call, and Bobby has a story I want you guys to hear. Welcome to the channel, Bobby.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate your time.
So, where are you from?
Dan, I'm from a rural town, southeast Georgia called Noonan.
Where are you sitting right now?
I'm currently sitting on the 16th floor in a condo in Cagayan de Oro, Mindanao. Retired Navy guy, so came overseas to a lot of different countries in Southeast Asia. Typically a 4-day visit, right? And one of those days is duty, so you really have three. It's more of a go out, party, eat, and come back kind of thing. So this is the first time that I've had some extended time to kind of enjoy the culture.
And you've kind of just retired relatively recently. Is that right? And what age are you?
I'm currently 51. I retired 2015. That would have made me 43.
43. Wow, that's great. And so you're retired military.
Correct. I joined at 17 and a half on a parental waiver. I actually had to have my mother sign in order for me to enter. I graduated high school early. And, as most kids do, I wanted to get out of, rural Georgia and go see the world. I retired in 2015, and I did the typical defense contractor rotating door. I walked out of the door in uniform one day and came back in a suit and tie the next day as a contractor because it's easy, right? And it's decent money. I did that for a while, Dan, and I found very little job satisfaction in it. I really did. I had kind of had enough of defense as it was, but I figured, it's easy. I already have a clearance. Let's go ahead and get that done. So I worked that for I worked both defense contracting and industry as a process improvement consultant. A lot of travel, a lot of long hours. And, I sat down one day and I thought to myself, we spend 20 to 25 years preparing ourselves to work 40 years. And if you go by the average mortality rate of males in the United States, you die at 72, right? So 25 years prep, 40 years working your butt off, and you get to enjoy 8 years if you make it. That along with, I was a little fed up with American culture. So I said, you know what, I want to go back overseas and live my life again like I did back in the day. Working up in Crystal City, Washington, or Virginia, rather, it's right across from the Washington border. I worked with a young gentleman, and I'll just leave it. He was older than me, but I'll leave his name out to protect the innocent.
Sure.
Admittedly, I'm not a beacon of great health, and he was kind of worse for wear himself. He had some health problems, and we were working as a consultant together, and he started to have heart issues. And so we were at lunch one day, and I said, bud, you're a little bit older than me. Have you ever thought about just calling it quits and retiring? And he said, yeah, I'd like to do that, but right. And then the excuse matrix starts. He admittedly, he had just married off his younger daughter, excuse me, and his older daughter was going through George Washington University, and he was kind of helping her get through that. So I kind of understood at the time. Fast forward, that was 2019, right? So fast forward to 2022. She had graduated, left university, and went on to her own life and her own career. And he was still there working the grind. I'm going to assume he's about, I don't know exactly, probably 5 or 6 years older than me. And the health started to continue to deteriorate. And I reminded him again, hey, man, have you thought about retirement? And he said, I just want to get a little bit of extra money in my 401k so that I know I'm real good when I retire. About a year ago, this next month, he had a debilitating stroke, and that caused him to quit working, which he hated, and that also it took his speech. He went to speech therapy about 4 days a week for about 6 months, just to learn how to talk again. Upon recent check-in in December, he was just getting around to where he could drive a car. He had moved in with his mother in Southern California, and she liked the help and having him around, and it kind of helped him kind of rehabilitate. And then recently, I actually reached out to him, maybe last week, I think it was. Hey, you thinking about retiring? Oh, no, I just want to work another 6 months. And so that kind of motivated me, wait a minute. And so, that coupled with, we've had a couple setbacks in the family here in Mindanao. I've lost 2 brother-in-laws in the last 6 months, one that was 10 months my senior and one that was probably a year my junior. And so that really solidifies it. I'm glad, as I look back now, I'm really glad that even though I was scared about it, I just made the jump.
And the other thing that really impressed me or made me think about your email was that you mentioned that your friend, um, he was just trying to get it like an extra $200 a month or something, and yet he was already making much more than he needed to live somewhere like in Southeast Asia already, right? I mean,
Oh,
it
absolutely.
wasn't like he was on he wasn't a shoestring that he was working with. He was he had more than enough, and he wanted to keep going for more, didn't he?
He did, and I think a lot of that is just his upbringing. He grew up in Hawthorne. He grew up in the LA area. I think he was trying to target that California retirement, which, to be honest with you, I think is out of reach for most of us normal humans.
Yeah, so that is a story that I've heard too many times, and I wanted my audience to hear about it, and so you're not guaranteed. We're just not guaranteed anything, right? So if we're we have to really think about why we're working those extra years. So thanks so much for sharing that part of the story. What would you say the average local spends per month living there?
I'll just give you my budget if that do you think that would be helpful.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
totally
and I
helpful. Yeah,
I live very, very modestly. Believe me, I'm not killing it by any means. Um, so for rent, I live in a condo. There's probably two or three really nice condos in the downtown CDO area, and I live in one of them. They're fairly new condo, and my rent is about 355 a month US.
right.
Um, and what I think will really surprise folks is the power and the water in the Philippines. And I know you're aware of this if you've had to pay it. Um, when we first got here and I really wasn't paying attention, I probably spent between 140 US a month to 180 US a month, depending on how the weather was outside. And then
Right.
when we really started conserving, I was able to get it down to about $90 a month. But it's pricey for power, especially for a guy who has some time in Phoenix, Arizona, when it's 115 outside. I had some pretty astronomical power bills, but I didn't expect that coming over. So that's one of those uh-ohs you didn't expect.
Okay, good.
When your power bill is half your rent, it's like, okay, wait a minute, something's wrong. Groceries, it's just my wife and I. Uh, we met before I came over, and we spent about $270-300 a month. I'm about 90% vegetarian, so your mileage may vary. If you're looking for beef over here, it's pretty bad. It's pretty expensive. But if you're willing to stick with chicken and fish and pork, you're pretty safe. And vegetables are in CDO are just phenomenal. I've got a fresh market over here about the size of a football field. And then I set aside some money for the visa renewal. I'm a tourist visa guy. I'm really not seeking permanent residence. We haven't settled down, and we've got some more stuff to see in Southeast Asia. But that's about $60 every 2 months or $30 a month. And then lastly, because I'm a T-Mobile guy, I'm still on a contract with T-Mobile. I've got about another 6 months on that, a year. And honestly, I may just stick with them because it's got really good connectivity over here in the Philippines. It's 5G. I get 5 GB of free data that I hardly ever use because I'm mostly on Wi-Fi, and that's $96 a month.
And anything else that you're spending money on?
No, not really. Wi-Fi, gym, pool is all included in the condo, so I don't spend any money on that. I don't drink anymore. That was a big savings, by the way. When you first get over here, you kind of maybe sometimes you want to throttle it out a little bit and have a good time, and that's very easy to do here because beer is awful cheap, and they sell it 24 hours a day. But I throttled that back and stopped that, so that saved me a considerable amount of money. And we don't. I'm not going to say I'm old. I just don't do the club scene and stuff like that. Mom and I might go to dinner, but that's about it.
And how would you think your expenses would vary whether you're a single or a couple?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say that, being a couple doubles your expenses, but it doesn't because half of that you were going to pay anyway. Mom doesn't need that much. But if you were single and you were out here trying to ride the bars, I'll give you, for instance, we have a place called Lifestyles. It's a big area here across the street from the condo, and it's got the live bands and it's got the 3 or 4 bars in like a little circle. Where I paid 55 pesos for a beer down at 7-Eleven, and that's expensive. You'd pay 50 in the grocery. You're going to pay 80, 90 pesos a beer. And if you're looking to drink anything imported, you're going to pay through the nose.
Okay, good. And so what would you say your average monthly budget is living the way you are now?
So with fun money and play, I would say 1,400 a month, hard and fast.
Okay, good. And Bobby, finish this sentence for me. Don't come here if you think it's going to be
the standard, if you're from the West, if you think it's going to meet Western standards, don't come here. If you think you're going to get off the plane and there's going to be a big line of Filipinos that want to meet you, don't come here. It's not quite that easy. It's easy, but it's not that easy. Don't come here if you don't have a lot of patience. Don't come here, and this is nothing against America. I defended it for 25 years. Don't come here with an American attitude. You've got to be respectful and calm. You know, as a prior military officer, I'm loud, right? I'm told by the Filipinos here that I'm loud, and that's just natural because, you know, being an officer in the military. And then if I drink, I get even louder, so it just gets worse. So don't come over if you're going to be loud and obnoxious. They're beautiful people.
Great, Bobby. That's great insights. And then how would you finish this sentence? Do come here if you want.
If you want a lower cost of living, where your buck or your foreign currency goes a long way. If you want beautiful people, a beautiful culture, a conservative culture, if you want a safe environment to live in, and I'm not saying that it's safe everywhere, but I mean, what you really have to worry about here is petty crime, pickpockets, people asking for money on the street, that kind of thing. But you know, you're not going to come over here and get shot like you are in America. It's just not. It's not that way. Do come over here if you want to see beautiful beaches. I mean, beautiful, gorgeous beaches. If you like snorkeling, if you love the water, and if you're okay, if you do come over here, if you're okay with some decent heat and some credible humidity, there's plenty of that.
Great. You mentioned the heat again, so I'll ask, what was your key to getting your bill down from, like, I think you mentioned 120 to 180, and now you keep it down more around 100 or 90, I think you said. What was the key to that?
Well, so, you know, I'm a spoiled guy, so I keep it at 23C, which is about 73 Fahrenheit. Otherwise, I can't sleep at night. But tucking carpet, it's kind of ghetto fab, but tucking carpets at the door jambs because, you know, admittedly, Filipino construction is not quite as sealed and tight as we were used to in the West. So I close the bathroom door because it has an open vent for the fan to go up to the top of the roof. I put the carpets in front of the door to block it. I unplug and turn off the air conditioning every time I leave the house. I never change the temperature, and if I'm in the house, it runs 24/7. But that was it. That was the nail in the coffin to get it down.
Wow, that's great advice that anybody could follow. Thank you so much. So you mentioned you have a girlfriend now in the Philippines?
Well, she started as my girlfriend, and now she's my wife. We got married last June.
Okay, great. And how did you two meet?
So we met on Filipino Cupid.
Okay.
I hate dating sites, right? I really do. Tinder, all that noise. You know, I'm old school, probably like you. You know, we didn't have that when I was growing up. You actually had to talk to a human. But we met on Filipino Cupid. We switched over to WhatsApp probably a day or two later because I get tired of hand jamming stuff into messages. And we video chatted, Dan, for 90 days straight. And that's a tipper, right? If you're going to come over here, find out what you're up against with Filipino culture. Ask all the hard questions. Get it all ironed out. You know, coming over here, it was known. I'm a pensioner. I'm going to support you. We're going to travel. There's no distractions. Your kids are 28, or 26 and 29. They're grown. They're going to take care of themselves. I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to pay for your family. It's just me and you, no distractions. And she agreed. And then we talked back and forth, you know, over the course of the next 3 months about what we expected in our relationship and kind of got that set flat. So on Thanksgiving Day in 2022, I sat there after my turkey dinner and I said, that's it. I'm going. I'm retiring. I'm done. I went on to Google Flights because I didn't know about Skyscanner. I hadn't saw your video yet on that. I went on Google Flights and said, how far out do I have to go where I can get a one-way ticket to the Philippines for under $1,000? And I picked the very first date, and that was it. That was actually, I'm actually on my 1-year anniversary as of the 19th. Oh yeah, and then we started with it always starts with no expectations. We did some traveling. We hit about 6 or 7 sites in Luzon, and then came down to the Visayas and did some traveling. And then one day, you know, we decided to get married. So I got married, Dan, over Zoom. I'm married in the state of Utah, and we did it with the county clerk over Zoom with her whole family in the condo. It was kind of non-standard, but it works.
Would you say dating's easier in the Philippines than in the US? What are your thoughts about it comparatively?
Dating is incredibly easier. And I'm not here to bash America or American women, but I think we both know there's an American culture, there's an American expectation for dating, right? Let's just say some folks want to be independent and strong until they don't, right? Until it's time to pay the bill, or they want to take, they want, if you ask, maybe you ask the young ones, how much does your man need to make for him to support you? They may say something crazy like $250,000, $300,000 a year, and we know that that's like 2% of the population in America. So, you've seen the videos over here. If you ask a Filipina, what's the minimum your man needs to make to support you? She's probably going to say 30,000, 50,000 pesos a month, Dan. So,
Yeah, exactly.
by that standard, I'm Bill Gates. So we're good to go. My number one reason for leaving the Philippines or leaving America is I wanted a traditional wife, and that's exactly what I found. And that's my number one reason. Number two reason would be the dating scene, and then all of the stress in America. The unaffordability of housing. Right? If I had to live off my pension in America, then I'd be living in a tent somewhere in the Rocky Mountains.
So do you keep health insurance, or do you just pay as you go? What are you doing about that?
It's ironic you asked me that question because not just last week I watched your video on auto insurance or health insurance, and guess who I called? Right. So
Yeah.
I had Optimum Global for this last year, and my policy is ending here at the end of this month, end of February rather. And it's a UK-based company, and it's the same type of policy that you bought and that I'm about to buy two of. But they wouldn't insure my spouse because she's a Filipina living in the Philippines. So they have an underwriter here that just does Filipinos. Whereas with the other brand that we won't mention because this is not a paid advertisement, I'm able to insure both of us at a lower cost and with about the same coverage. It's about exactly the same.
So,
Yeah.
and you mentioned visas, just so people know, so you're on a tourist visa now. So you just update it. You said every 2 months for 60, and as I understand it, and my own experience says you can do that up to 36 times total for a total of 36 months, and then you have to do a visa run and come back. Is that your understanding also?
That's correct. You come in on 29-day visa on arrival. You need to do a 1 month extension and then an additional 1 month extension. And then you apply for your alien card, your ACR, and that allows you to stay past 90 days. As far as I can tell, Dan, they don't do 6 month extensions anymore. You can do a 1, excuse me, or a 2. So I've been doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and now I'm at a year. I've got 2 years to go, and we're already making plans for a Vietnam run to reset it when that 36 months is over.
Are you happy?
Absolutely, absolutely. My stress level has gone from about an 8 to about a 4. Right, probably the biggest challenge. A lot of my friends ask me, "Well, Bobby, what are you going to do?" And I'm thinking, anything I want. When you wake up every day is Saturday, right? So the hardest challenge I've had is I just keeping myself entertained. I would say don't come. If you're into like travel and beaches and lots of fun and lots of activities and things to do, don't come to CDO. I mean, just don't. That's not what this is for. Stay out there in the Visayas, Boracay. We're going to Palawan at the end of the month. I'm going to spend, and I blame you for that. We're going to spend a month in El Nido. But we're looking forward to it. I just want to sit on the beach, feet in the sand, relax. But we had to come home and deal with these family stuff, and then we're going to take off and head out there and have a good time and just move. It's Baguio after that. We're just going to kind of like you and Chang. We're just going to keep rolling with it.
Well, Bobby, it's thanks so much for taking the time and to come share your story on my channel. And do come visit us again in a few years. Let us know how things are going.
Absolutely, Dan. Thanks for your time today and appreciate the opportunity.
As I travel around the world, I write these retired cheap in paradise reports. They include links to where we stayed, restaurants, cheap public markets, expensive grocery stores, transportation information, internet speeds, visa information, weather, and other information. All of this information saves time when you are doing your exploratory visits to identify your own personal paradise destination. We spend hours collecting and preparing this information so you don't have to. Click the first link in the notes below this video to get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Hey, if you liked our video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Any of that would help our business. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.